Hi, welcome to If I Did It, a show where we analyze and solve PR kerfuffles from the MMA world and beyond. That's for you, Chew.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Alexi Old, and joining me is
Alexi,
always...
straight from Abu Ghraib. Yeah, right.
Joining us always is King Native Bloody Elbow and EUGENE'S Robinson from Aussie.com, an author of Fight Everything You Ever Want to Know About Ass Kicking. We're afraid you get your ass kicked for asking.
That's true.
Or sent to Abu Dhabi. Abu got ribs, right? Gabriel. My brain, man. Once you mentioned the prison, I was like, oh my god.
Right. You get down now.
Are you conflating Abu Dhabi and Abu Ghraib?
I did.
Yeah.
Should we curveball about the girl that got raped in Abu Dhabi and they convicted her of adultery and sentenced her to 4 years?
What?
It might have been one of the different Arab countries. Actually, I should.
Well, I know it was a guy who in Saudi Arabia who saw a school friend, and he says, "Oh, here's my cousin. He'll give us a ride." And the cousin gave him a ride right out to the sand dunes where he was raped. And then the guy goes to the police, and they arrest him for homosexual activity.
Man.
Yeah.
And the parents said, you know what, I could see this is going the wrong way. They bailed him out, hopped on a plane back to France, and then they pursued I think they even started a URL, Saudi Arabia is about rape or some such thing like that. So it's a big international incident now.
I see. This was in Qatar, actually.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
When I was in elementary school, we had two guys from Qatar that came through to do a presentation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, everything is free in our country.
Yeah.
Free? It was like fifth grade. Like, if I want a TV, you get it for free.
Yeah, everything is free right around this sand dune. You come and visit the sand dune. Anyway, yes.
All right.
Back to the show.
Yes. So, Eugene, you're WWE and UFC fighter Brock Lesnar. That's my jailer. You're talking about.
There you go.
It will. Yes, it will. The WWE is granting you a one-time opportunity for an MMA fight at UFC 200 this weekend. WWE Minority Order.
Stephanie McMahon. Let me read this one.
I'll be right here.
All right, so something about Brock Lesnar and Stephanie McMahon. She said that, let's see. She said that losing at the UFC would hurt his value in the WWE as a draw in the WWE, and Brock said, "I don't give a shit." So,
is that a direct quote? I don't give a shit.
That was a direct quote. Yes, was that Brock Lesnar does not care about his UFC or his WWE drawing power. He's taking the money for UFC 200. What do you do?
Well, I'm just going to read straight from the peanut gallery here. Yeah, I don't know if he wants his name mentioned, so I won't mention. I just said D. D says, if Lesnar gets violently KO'd, there's no way that McMahon lets him fight at SummerSlam, a huge event in its own right. I mean, like it or not, I guess. Mark Hunt also just went through a divorce, so I'll let you draw the conclusions yourself. Now, this is grassy knoll stuff where we are right now.
Indeed, the conspiracy where we like to live.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, like how many people do you have to loop in, to rope in, to make this? I mean, it may be that Lesnar doesn't know. It may be that Lesnar doesn't need to know. But it may be that Mark Hunt knows. It may be that the bald one knows, and it may be that McMahon knows. The idea is nobody, a man worth his own right, divorce or no divorce, is going to take the okie doke unless there's huge amounts of money, which there could be flowing his way. It's not going to ruin his legacy. Maybe there's a deal in place to give him a shot. But I mean, Hunt came out recently and said, if you don't like getting hit, you're in the wrong business. But, who knows? In other words, I'm not putting any money on this fight. But I will watch it, and I'll be entertained by it. But there are many reasons for it to smell badly, and not many reasons for it to smell well.
What about you, Nate?
Well, I think...
Or smell good, I'm sorry.
It's one of these, I always say this, but this is one of these classic situations. Brock can fix all his PR problems in the cage. Like, and there's a perfectly clear path to victory for him. Mark Hunt's a pretty bad wrestler. He's tough to finish on the ground, though, but Lesnar's pretty fearsome when he's got somebody on their backs. So.
Oh, you mean fearsome with these little choppy chop things?
Oh no! Remember when he put Frank Mir in the one-armed stockade and and was working his face?
Working his face with these.
Well, they were sustained, and it was bad. And I think he could probably finish Mark Hunt that way. Mark Hunt's a heavy favorite. I mean, there's no way around it. But he's old. I don't know. I don't think Brock cares. I think Brock's all about the payday right now. I don't know what Brock does with all the money.
Oh, you think that Brock is doing this for the? Well, that's stupid for me. Let me put this.
Yeah, Brock's doing this for the money.
You think that's a major motivating factor for him in this?
I think that's his only motivation ever.
Yeah.
I don't believe the whole notion of I need to see where I stand with a healthy colon.
No, I don't buy that at all. And I don't think he seems so diminished when he fought Overeem. I don't think he's.
That was diverticulitis, baby.
Yeah, it was diverticulitis, but that was after his surgery and he was recovered supposedly.
Yeah.
And then he seemed way, way diminished from the fearsome Brock of old. So I think he's just looking for the payday. This is one of the last paydays he's going to be able to get at his age. So. I think Brock's just about the money. I think he goes back to Minnesota. He doesn't watch TV. He doesn't read the papers. What does he care? He doesn't give a shit.
I think UFC 200 should actually be subtitled diminished because there are a number of fighters on there with so many question marks in terms of recent events in their lives and how, whether or not what's going on in their headspace. And speaking of headspace.
This is the claim I made on Knuckle Up, man, that this is going to be what they used to call in Dante the harrowing. Where Christ shows up, breaks the gates of hell, and launches judgment. You're either going up or down with this one. It's a wedding or a funeral.
Well, that's a perfect segue. At.You're Ronda Rousey. 2 weeks ago, UFC President Dana White told UFC Unfiltered you were training for a comeback. Quote, obviously Ronda is a very unique individual and has her own way of dealing with things. And apparently this is the way she wants to deal with it. She'll be back, though. She'll be back, end quote. But just a few days ago, an actor tweeted, you'll be back for something else. Quote, I know for a fact she's putting in work at one of the best acting schools in L.A. Like, really going at it, end quote. What's it going to be, Ronda? UFC or the TV?
Well, I mean, we kind of touched on this before. You notice. Let's look back for a bit after the loss to Holly Holm and look at where we were prior to. We were at Roadhouse. Prior to, we were militating for a position as Captain Marvel. Post Roadhouse is gone. No more talk about Captain Marvel. And in actual fact, the director was saying, I think we're looking at all of our options, mostly real actors, or that's a paraphrase, but that was the sum total of it. So, the royalty checks have started coming in from the Entourage movie, and there's a real understanding that, I see why people do this. I work 3 months out of the year. I get $6 million in royalties. It shows up every 13 weeks, and I get free health care, and nobody's punching me in the face. Yeah, right. So it's a good gig if you can get it, but I've discovered something in my time in Hollywood with a Hollywood agent going on auditions that this is why the Diaz brothers are perfectly poised, strangely enough, for you to hear me say that, but the more you don't care about it, the better off you are. I just saw that movie Neon Demon, and they're talking about this 16-year-old from the Midwest who comes to Hollywood and how she has it. What she has is not give a fuck or two. The ceiling for her, it might as well, it could be an inch, it could be a mile, it doesn't make a difference. It's the people who come. When I'd go on these auditions, you could smell the desperation off of the people who are doing the acting classes, who are beating the bushes, who are going to the SAG meetings, doing anything to try to up-level a profile instead of just being. So I'm going to make the claim. It's like dancing. Yeah, lessons might be able to help you. Acting might be able to help you not be a bad actor. It's not going to help you be a good actor. And acting is not what Hollywood's about anyway. Not when you got guys like Arnold fucking making tons of money there. It's not about acting. It's
Have you seen Twins?
It's about successful.
I like the food.
Successful projection of personality, and I think it can happen that Ronda's personality is not fully formed enough for that to be a successful outing. So what she does is she waits for people to imprint, and if she's not winning, what kind of imprint do they have? If I were her, I'd rededicate to fucking do the T-Mobile commercials or whatever, the Metro PCS commercials. Stick with that. You make tons of money from that. You can make over $1 million a year just doing that, and then let the acting thing happen naturally, because you'll smell different on auditions, and that desperation when you realize, oh my God, this could be a $6 million gig, that goes away.
What's your take, King?
Well, she's still got the Tina Fey project allegedly, so it's not all.
Yeah, sure. When Tina Fey, who's doing American Express commercials, right?
Yeah. Well, Tina Fey's a busy gal, busy. And she's got a great resume, and her friends are hot with their movies and whatnot. But Ronda's in a damned if you do, damned if you don't position, because what's she got left to do in MMA? Go out and lose to Holly Holm again? I mean, she's not gonna. She has about as good a chance of learning to act as she does learning to kickbox with Holly Holm.
Wow.
And she's shown she can't beat Holly Holm with her ground game. I think she'd win 2 out of 10 fights with Holly Holm. So, and if she really worked and concerted effort.
2 out of 10. That's a tough way to go, man. She didn't do so well with that 1 out of 10.
No. And so, I think she's between a rock and a hard place, and she just needs to figure out ways to keep her name in the papers, figure out what she wants to do with her life. How much money does she need to make? How much money does she want to make? How famous does she want to be? It doesn't seem like she really likes being famous that much. So maybe she's perfectly happy, settling back into normal life. Maybe she's not. I don't know.
Or do totally the weak thing, which is come back once Holly Holm is diminished. Like, put her in there against some bruiser. Come back after Holly Holm fights Cyborg 2 or 3 times.
Exactly. Oh, you mean the Chris Weidman MO? Yeah.
Yes.
All of a sudden, the neck pain goes away when he thinks he can fight an aged Michael Bisping. D raises a good point here. He just texted. He goes, "You also don't have to make 135 on a film set."
Oh man.
He goes, "Bigger question: what does the rest of the division do?" And I think the rest of the division continues on quite nicely without her. She's unnecessary. I mean, she's got a lot of tough road ahead of her, man. She's got to strengthen Miesha at the very least, who's looking to avenge the prior 2 losses, who I guarantee you is not taking acting classes, but is out somewhere training. You got an angry Cyborg. You got an angry Kat Zingano. You got, a rededicated Holly Holm. If you're doing anything other than training, you're crazy.
Man, speaking of craziness and taking the easy way out, Nate, your NBA player Kevin Durant. Oof. On the 4th of July, we learned you're taking your talents to the Bay Area to join the Golden State Warriors. Outrage followed since you're joining a team that just barely beat yours almost a month ago in the NBA playoffs. ESPN's Stephen A. Smith called it the weakest move he's ever seen from a superstar. It took many years and championships for LeBron James' brand to recover from the blueprint you're following. Is your sole PR salvation to rid yourself of this problem, do all that you can, by admitting that you believed in things that you don't understand, and then you suffered?
Sebastian is the way.
Well, my answer to this is, have you ever been to Oklahoma City? And if you were a king of the NBA, would you want to spend your career, your golden years, in Oklahoma City? No. He's given OKC plenty of Kevin Durant. How much do they deserve? None, Kevin Durant. That is a dump and a nothing burg. Get out of there. Go to the Bay Area. Live like a king in a city that is an empire. Win some titles. People forget all about this. The Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, oh my God, they're not going to lose any championships. They're going to win. He's going to have rings on every finger. Screw the haters. Stephen Smith, what's he know? He rape apologist loser. I mean, Kevin Durant don't care about these fans squalling. This is summertime sports talk radio filler talk. That's all this is.
This is a Texan talking about Oklahoma. The Okies are gonna hate you for that. You know?
Oh, big shock. My mom's an Okie, so you know.
Here you go. Here, you know, I've been working on impressions. Right? You know, like John Wayne. You know, I'm like a modern day Rich Little. You know. So here's my Kevin Durant. Here's my Kevin Durant impression. Okay, ready? All right. 1 million, 2 million. Wait a minute. I gotta start again. 1 million, 2 million, 3. Who gives a fuck? You know, there's a certain point at which you get into that Mike Tyson space. What are you gonna do? You mean my house in Oklahoma? I'm gonna feel it. He's not. There's no going back. There's no. I played plenty of shows in Oklahoma. In fact, that was where I had my first neo-Nazi attendee at a show. The guy showed up in a VW playing Hitler speeches, wearing jack boots, and sporting a Hitler mustache. And I was like, wow, this is heavy. Does he know he just paid to see me? At the Crystal Pistol in Norman, Oklahoma. You know, it's, How do you
like the show?
He stayed. You know, what can I tell you? I don't know.
And
I saw him
fueled 10 or 20 more years of hatred of Negroes.
I
might take a little light on hatred of Negroes.
I didn't do anything untoward that night, so I don't know. But yeah, I think it's a tempest in a very tiny teapot. You know.
Man, see, the thing is, think about the old school sensibilities.
Loyalty.
No, it's not just loyalty. It's the sense that the move that he's making. This is why I understand the fan discontent. Is the move that he's from him? Like, who cares to a certain degree, right? In terms of branding, it could have an impact. I mean, if he doesn't win. But you have this whole notion of the move that he's making. You normally make when you're at the end of your career, and like you kind of just acknowledge, hey, look, you know what? I don't have what it takes to carry a team. I mean, he's on a great team. He has a great coach. I mean, he literally look. The thing is that. The reason why you go a couple of shows back with the conspiracy theory of the NBA, Draymond Green of the Warriors blatantly nutshotted Thunder players like 3 times during that playoff series. No suspension. Golden State advances. Suspension comes through.
Yeah.
You know, so you have that kind of notion. So the notion that, I guess to a certain degree, is like, okay, I'm going to win. I see that the league does not want the Thunder to win. I'm on a team the league does not want to win.
Well, also, but they're ancillaries.
But still, you know,
they're ancillaries. Who, you know, I'm seeing Curry doing commercials for Muscle Milk. I'm seeing Curry everywhere. You know, do you think it has something to do? What? Why him versus somebody from OKC? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, one thing I need you to tell me, Eugene. Your UK Independence Party leader, Nigel Farage.
That's a natural fit for Eugene.
After successfully convincing the majority of UK voters to leave the European Union, you're resigning from the party. Quote, I've done my bit. End quote. As desperation takes hold, is it just that something so good just can't function no more?
Oh, man, that fucking Joy Division callback. That's great. Love will tear us apart again. Y'all, you know what? If it hasn't made you leavers suspicious that both rats have jumped the ship vis-a-vis Boris Johnson and Farage, yeah, you should. It's like the guy who goes, "Let's get him, boys," and you run and you turn around and he's way back there. I'm gonna level everybody else where you went. You know, I mean, I've talked to friends. I have a few friends who are ardent leavers, like 3 or 4, and they've all said pretty much it can't get any worse. It can't get any worse. One guy's a fireman. You know, somebody has friends who work in fishing. You know, and based on my understanding of life on this planet, when somebody busts loose with "it can't get any worse," my attitude is always, "Oh yeah." You watch. And the fact that Farage is trying to extricate himself from the history books by jumping ship as quickly as possible should be a sign. Now I don't think, if you're paying attention to the press, nobody's pulled down Article 50 yet, so nobody's pulled the lever on that yet. So I'm suspecting that this is some weird kind of Punch and Judy show, where they intend to, again, militate for sort of preferential, most favored nation status among the EU overlords, maybe get some minor league concessions. But there's one town in England that they say like 53,000 people are employed by somebody that if they do leave, would have to leave. So effectively putting themselves out of jobs. And they interviewed these people in the street to make sure they understood. And, the preponderant response was, we don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck. Ultimately, I mean, they're doing like the bombings of the UK during World War II. Their attitude is like, we're going to keep a stiff upper lip and get through this. Our inherent Britishness will help. But the fact that Farage, inherent Britishness or not, has escaped, is he's not positioning himself for taking over Cameron's job. He just left, man. That it's like Hitler on the submarine to Argentina. You should pay attention to that.
Yeah, it's funny. It reminds me of when I was at Howard and I saw, at the time, Stokely Carmichael,
Kwame Ture.
He would make appearances, right? Because he was still a wanted man. So you'd be minding your business. I'm like, Kwame Ture is going to be, at so-and-so at 2 o'clock, and you go and watch him. And he was so captivating as a speaker, talking about different liberation movements and things that have to be done and yada, yada, yada. And I was just very inspired by this guy. And I went home and I spoke to our mother who went to Howard. And
really?
knew him. Yeah, both my parents did, and my grandmother, and my
so did my mom. What year?
Graduated in 67 to 69.
Okay, my mom was 61. So.
Oh, okay. Well, my grandmother might have, she was teaching there too. Yeah, I mean, did some stuff there too. So, but the thing is that when I went home and spoke to my mother about, he was saying all this stuff. She's like, let me tell you something about Kwame or Stokely as we know.
Yep.
You listen to him. He makes a lot of sense. He touches you, just the intellectually speaking, your heartstrings, and then he riles you up to do something. And when you go to do something, he's not there.
Yeah, exactly right.
And this is like, you have to really be careful because you have a lot of people that are really good at firing you up and knowing what buttons to push, but at the end of the day, they're not there. My father, who's Jamaican, mentioned the same kind of thing, frustrations that Jamaicans would have who would get caught up in a lot of things too.
Michael Manley.
They'd be born and ready to go, and they'd show up, and no one's there. They're like, what's going on here? Because in Jamaica, you say you're going to do something.
Yeah, right.
So it kind of reminds you of that kind of dynamic, being stuck. What about you, King?
Well, I mean, at this point, he's basically taken himself out of a public role. I don't think there's a public path forward for him. So who cares? He doesn't care. I mean, he set a big fire and he walked away. I mean, you know.
If you're a leaver, do you feel betrayed or do you feel like he's right? He did what he came to do. The rest is up to us.
It's really hard to get a handle on putting my mind in that headspace. I mean, I understand being angry. I understand that a lot of people have been stone fucked ever since Margaret Thatcher took over in the late 70s, and things have not gotten better, and that all the stuff that the Remain people were talking about doing is all the stuff that's been making things worse. So there was no plan to make your life better. I think it was just a big screw you. We're here. We have an opinion. We can't count us. But I don't think people thought through the consequences that thoroughly, and I don't know. I can't imagine. I would be so pissed off if people walked me over this precipice and then bailed. I mean,
sure.
I think to a certain degree, people will remember, like, hey, wait, Boris Johnson, rich. Farage, rich. Cameron, rich. Me, broke.
Corbyn broke. So.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one thing. But
isn't it kind of a cynical play, though, to say that, okay, I'm removing myself from the government so I can be a consultant, so I can help corporations that are interested.
Yeah, he's following the money, and I have friends who are actually legitimately frightened at the possibility of an ascendant May or Gove, who are people who have revealed themselves to be naked lusters after of power. I mean, it's we're having a global leadership crisis, and
the fact that the Blairites in Labor chose this moment to stab Corbett in the back, utter treason, not just to their party but to their country. I mean, of all the times to divide your party, it's just nonsense and crazy.
Well, Nate, that brings us right into our next question. Your former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. According to an investigation involving the Iraq War, you could be, quote, stripped of all honors, end quote, for allegedly misleading Parliament. Do you care? And if so, what PR moves do you make to preserve your legacy?
Well, he's already done it. He's been alleged to be having been a factor in this coup against Corbyn because they knew when this report comes out, Corbyn is not going to pull any punches against Blair. Corbyn opposed the Iraq War. Almost all the MPs that voted to kick Corbyn out supported Blair and supported the Iraq War, so they're covering their asses. And I think Blair's made his move. Unfortunately for him, Corbyn has the support of a majority of the members of Labour, the support of the local councillors. The MPs who voted against Corbyn are going back to their home districts and getting booed in meetings, getting stuff thrown at them. So I think Blair played his cards, and now his move didn't work, seemingly, and now he's going to have to face the consequences. There comes a time, even for Tony Blair, when you got to pay the piper, and I think this might be it.
Tony Blair sitting at home drinking fucking Mai Tais. George, hey, see if you can get George on the phone again. Yeah, because there have been efforts afoot in this country to charge Cheney and George W. with war crimes, and the amount of purchases gotten has been zero in total.
Well, yeah, but you also don't see Bush or Cheney going to Switzerland too often, or Europe.
Right,
so
right.
People have long memories, and people eventually, keep trying. So. I don't know. Blair's probably not getting his phone calls answered by George W. Bush too often these days, and what can Bush do for him? So, I think it's Rupert Murdoch that he's got on speed dial, and I don't know if I'd be trusting Rupert Murdoch to save my bacon.
I got a funny Blair story, but
is it off color?
I went on a business trip with a friend of mine, and he was encouraging me to. Spend the money like it's your own money. Make your own reservations. You can expense me later. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I stay in a hotel that's got alternate day heating. You got heat on Monday, Wednesday, and fuck you for Tuesday, right?
So you just try to get extra warm on Monday and ride it out?
I don't know. I'm just trying to save that company money. I was like, hey, man, we have the meeting. I'm like, hey, man. He goes, hey, your hotel's right. I go, nah, it really sucks. I freeze to death on the alternate days. They're like, babe, where are you staying? And he's like, well, I'm staying at my friend Tony's place. Hey, does he have an extra couch? Can I stay there with you? And he looks at me and goes, Blair. I go, I thought you said his name was Tony.
Who's on first?
Right. So he's staying at Tony Blair's house. So I said, come on, man, hook me up. Let me get in there, right? So the idea of me padding around Tony Blair's house in my underwear, asking him if he had any non-fat milk would be great. Yeah, I just enjoyed the hell out of it. Even though
that'd be a great TV show. You can still do it.
I clearly was getting nowhere near Tony Blair's house, but I was close. I was 1 degree.
Eugene in his drawers.
Hey,
Tony Blair edition.
No shirt, scratching. Hey, man, your wife is cute. Not what you want to see when you wake up.
No. Well, speaking of what you want to see, Eugene, your Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. With statehood closer to being a reality, D.C. needs a new name, right? So you're rolling with New Columbia. A name so reviled that, according to the Washington Post, Washingtonians are willing to forego statehood. Yeah. What do you do to prevent bad PR from a horde name derail statehood?
Well, what you need to go with, you want a word, but you don't want to be District of Columbia. What D, small c, small e, c, small e, EC. I mean, you got people are not gonna look. You know what I'm waiting for? I'm waiting for somebody to say, I got to go out and get a few liters of soda. Americans are not going for fucking change. We're not doing it. We voted for Obama. That's about as much change as we want to see. Look, they've been threatening metrics since I was in 4th grade. All right, Americans still have it. Oh, it's easier. Fuck that. It requires you to change your mind. As somebody, my European friends are like, come on, it's easy. Look, all you have to do, 10 meters, and you got a guy. I'm not listening. New Columbia, I'm not listening. I got family in D.C. They're not listening. I got family who works for the government. They don't care. It's D.C. Spell it out. Do something creative, but you're not getting away with New Columbia. Columbia is a place in Maryland or a place in Ohio, or not even a place in Ohio. It's a place in Maryland. You're not getting away with it. So.
A place I know all too well.
D says, change it to Redskin Land. Yeah.
Why bother with the new? I mean, why not just Columbia? There's no other states named Columbia. There's a country named Columbia, but they spell it with 2 O's. This one's got a U in it. Go for it.
They're talking about disconnecting from the Christopher Columbus legacy, an opportunity to finally disconnect.
You see, you can't zig but for zagging, man. You're screwed. So,
yeah,
like I said,
declare war on Washington State. There can be only one.
There actually is a movement for that. It's like Force Washington changed the name.
That's what I'm saying. Go hip hop, man. Capital D, small E, small E.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I was thinking go hip hop in terms of East Coast versus the West Coast, baby.
No.
Oh, but that led people.
Don't bring that up again.
Yeah. That was stupid.
I couldn't live with the guilt if we triggered that word.
But you know what? I only saw a few people realize that the difference between East Coast and West Coast hip hop had to do with the prevailing modes of transportation, right? Mm-hmm. Too Short never comes out of Brooklyn because your lyrical rhythmic flow is fundamentally different when you're riding the subways versus driving a car. So they say, West Coast adheres to like what the big three wanted, a car model. The music you play in your fucking car. And it wasn't, LL Cool J and the Fresh Prince, they didn't start changing their stuff to, Cars Drive By with the booming system, Summertime, until they went to the West Coast and saw, oh shit, like, the paradigm here is car-based. And when you get a group like the Wu-Tang Clan, it blows people away because their music is the music of the subways, Man. So it's I've only seen like 1 or 2 other people kind of make this connection, but
make sure to front like you. It came from you, man. I have this theory.
Yep.
So some of theories. Nate, your national theater chain, Cinemark. Over 24 survivors and parents of those murdered in 2012 Aurora shootings in your Cineplex sued you for security lapses which they believed helped enable the attack. And they lost. Now, according to the Denver Post, your lawyers filed a bill of costs for almost $700,000. It's within your rights to recover litigation costs in Colorado, but explain the PR behind that decision.
Grind the little people under your heel. It's just a instinct. The lawyers can't help it. Cinemark needs to get their PR. Cinemark management's going to have to live with the PR headache for this, and they are in a retail business. So it's not like they can just go around the customers. They might have to change their name. This is terrible. This is just a classic. I would hope this is just a case of the lawyers being evil asshole corporate lawyers, like instinctively, like when your nerves are disconnected from your brain, but you keep having reflex motion. The corporate bosses need to rein in said lawyers and I think go easy on these people because there's no sympathy for Cinemark in this situation. There might be legal sympathy, but there's no public sympathy for them, and they are in a public-facing business. I say rein in your lawyers, apologize. You don't want to pay out the lawsuits or go crazy like that, but I don't think you want to try hitting these people up for $700,000 they don't have. It's not like you have money.
But you're also assuming again that the lawyers are making this. I mean, I've had enough clients who have, you've told
lawyers
them,
are always a bad guy.
Look,
don't try and tell me different.
Hey, man. Only bad is our clients.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I'm taken back to the time of the Godfather, where the 5 families go. This is not the move of a friend. So if I'm at Warner Brothers right now, if I'm at DreamWorks, I'm like, folks at Cinemark, these are not the actions of a friend. Pretty much we're going into blockbuster season, and I need every ass in every seat, which means I need you to shut the fuck up. Right. I need you to drink a big tall glass and shut the fuck up. Sit down and shut the fuck. What are you doing bringing this shit up now for $700? Do you know how much I stand to lose? Do you have any idea how much I stand to lose? I mean, it's like, because this is the internet world. It's not just Aurora. You're anybody with a fucking computer and is outraged. I could have, and if you don't think the competition is going to make a play for this, you're crazy. You know, this is not just Aurora. This is Columbia. You know, Columbia, whatever that new state is called, where the White House is. You know, this is New York City. This is people like, what kind of bloodsuckers? I mean, there's a time where you should fire your PR company and everybody, fire your legal team. $700,000. Is somebody maneuvering for a bonus out of that money? That was crazy and stupid. Nothing to gain, everything to lose, and they did it anyway. To quote Jello Biafra, how reckless can you get?
Yeah, you know,
how reckless can you get?
I could totally see how the discussion went down, right? So you have how it could have gone down. You have a situation where you talk about, okay, you know, we won, okay, great, but that cost us $700,000. Like, well, you could file a motion you file for the fees, and it's like, well, why would we do that? Well, to stop other people from suing you anytime something happens, but. Yeah. You know, if he's like, I need to get my money.
Yeah.
But at the point, so that would be a good if I did it question, right? If you're an attorney working for Cinemark and you advise against, but then again, you're an attorney, you're not a PR person. Still, that doesn't stop me from giving PR advice to my clients.
Yeah, but you're supposed to be hand in hand, because insolvent business is an insolvent business. You know, so.
It's a common sense thing. You don't have to be a PR expert to know that suing the victims' families is bad.
Right. Yeah.
Speaking of bad business, Eugene, your Republican National Convention presidential candidate, Donald Trump. Your campaign posted an image of Hillary Clinton with the Star of David, calling her, quote,
you like Nazis, Eugene. What's the problem?
Most corrupt candidate ever, end quote. Was this an accident or a troll job, and how do you handle the negative PR?
Did you talk about the Star of David?
You mean the sheriff's badge?
Yeah. I was groaning too much, you know. I mean, I keep telling a couple of Trump fans who train here, and I kind of keep telling them, man, it's pretty amazing to watch the machinery kick into gear. Look, that guy punched me in the eye today. God damn it. It is pretty stunning to see the machinery just kick into gear, and it has kicked into gear. And he's like, no, it hasn't kicked into gear. It's just the media telling you. I go, media nothing, man. If you have business leaders, the media is telling me what's happening. Oh, right. Is it a spin that business leaders are shocked? Republican business leaders who have never voted Democrat before are shocked. That's unusual, and are turning against Trump because they say his policies will be ruinous for business in America, which means to a certain degree also that Hillary is having some sort of an effect with this. Yeah, look, business, you know, bankrupt, 4 or 5 bankrupt businesses. Is this what you want him to do, what he's done for his business, for America? I mean, so he is now all in on Fringe, all in on Fringe. In other words, he's looking at Obama's campaign and looking, this was a little guy campaign, you know, all the dreamers, all the hopers, everybody, you know, every trembling 80-year-old black person who before they died wanted an opportunity to vote for a black president. He's doing the kind of palimpsest, this kind of projected image of the same thing. If I get every fringe person in America, I might be able to push this ball over the top, and I think that's what that was about, which means I don't believe for a second it was a mistake.
What do you think, Nate?
Well, I don't think that they meant to get linked to Nazism. Maybe so. That's Eugene just shocked me with his cynicism. I also had a vision of 80-year-old Klansmen dusting off their sheets. I can wear this down to the election station again. I haven't worn my Klan robes to vote since '63. I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard to see how this is deliberate. But then again, maybe so. Maybe the rolling clusterfuck is the model they're going on. Just stir shit and hope the stink sticks to the places you want it to stick. I don't know. Times are crazy. Maybe I don't know. They've got proof that they got this from a right-wing Nazi website. Like the files have been searched and researched and linked back to the files. It's not the stories that the Trump team came up with are not true. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right, Eugene. Maybe you're right. This is all some brilliant master plan by Herr Trump.
Well, I mean, I say the only small difference is if Corey had still been the campaign manager, they would have said, "Look, we're focused on the future of America. We're not focused on the past," and they wouldn't have they wouldn't have pulled it or issued an apology, or they would have stuck to what has worked with them well, which is unrepentant. But this is, again, like Bill Clinton meeting with Lynch, that was an unforced error.
That was some PR, just bad. And did you hear today they're offering Lynch to be the Attorney General for Clinton's administration, which some people would call a bribe, but
it's just I can't believe. Again, it really beggars belief that these are accidents made by sterling political hands who know as much as they know. I have to either, if I'm going to believe that it's legit, I'm going to have to chalk it up sorry to age, but my tendency is not to believe it's legit. Well, in other words, in the world of tri-level chess, they're preempting a later discovery that there was some involvement by let you pre-smell the food.
Maybe. I also never underestimate how stupid and head up their asses people are.
Well, that brings us to our teachable moment. Nate, you're Max Blumenthal. Within hours of Holocaust survivor and Nobel Prize laureate Elie Wiesel's death, you tweeted, quote, "Elie Wiesel is dead. He spent his last years inciting hatred, defending apartheid, and palling around with fascists," end quote. In doing so, you put the anti-Semitic spotlight off Trump's Star of David fiasco and onto your candidate, Hillary Clinton. Can the damage be undone, or are you satisfied with your destructive troll move?
Well, young Max made the old Malcolm X mistake. When Kennedy died, Malcolm X's response, John F. Kennedy, when he was assassinated, Malcolm X's response was, "Chickens coming home to roost." And Middle America had no idea where Malcolm X was coming from. It was very similar to Sinead O'Connor ripping up the picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live back in the day. Turns out she was right, but nobody wanted to hear it at the time. People were not ready to blame the Pope for all these priests buggering kids, even though, as we know now, the Pope was set up a whole infrastructure to cover that shit up. Max has been hip deep in all these fights about Israeli policy, about Gaza, about the West Bank, about settlements, all this stuff. So he's been following the day-to-day. He's been feuding with Wiesel for a few years now. He knows all these different things. He knows who Avigdor Lieberman is and the ins and outs of some really, really crazy right-wing people Netanyahu's put in his cabinet in the last couple of years. Most of the public does not know this shit or care. All they know about Wiesel is that he wrote these great, heart-stirring books and he survived the Holocaust. Yeah. He's a hero, unimpeachable to so many people. Even though, like every other hero, he had feet of clay and he made some mistakes, he made some people mad. I don't think in the end Blumenthal really gives a shit, but his dad and Hillary Clinton don't need the publicity and the association. I mean, Max and the Clinton campaign have nothing to do with each other. The Clinton campaign does not control Max. Max doesn't care about Clinton. I don't think he's supporting her. But it's a short-term PR disaster for, it gets his name out there. It raises some awareness of his issues. I don't think he cares necessarily. I mean, I think he did this purposefully, but it's just never a good look. It's never a good look. Shitting on people right after they died is what got Greg Ginn to block me on Facebook, because when Breitbart died, Greg Ginn of Black Flag, for some reason, was all tearful about it, and I was like, what's his big accomplishment? Preventing black people from voting? I mean, why are you celebrating this guy? And people, Ginn was like, oh, you damn liberals hating on somebody when they died. And I was like, this is exactly what Breitbart did to Ted Kennedy the day he died. But Ginn didn't want to hear about it. Just pissed people off. And now I don't get to see Ginn's posts about hating fat people anymore. So it was my loss.
I guess you're lucky that Mike Vallely wasn't there. He'd have sent Mike Vallely in to slap you around, actually mid one of your shows. I thought that was. I don't want to get down a Greg Ginn rabbit hole. He's always been nice to me, but that just something wrong with that guy.
Fans, right?
Yes, we did. We got paid. So that's what I mean when I say always nice to me. So
most corrupt show participant ever.
right. So I think that this I think Kid Nate has summed it up nicely. You know, let the dead. I mean, I chortled when Scalia died, but I didn't do it from behind the podium. You know, it's no anybody who cares. People who, I mean, the vast majority of people now are looking at this as being some kind of internecine fight, you know, Jew versus Jew. They don't know. But I tell you, what I think is interesting as a separate issue is this 13-year-old girl who got her throat cut, and a friend of mine who is Polish, Czech, but then moved to Switzerland during World War II. His family escaped, you know. And
you're talking about the Israeli girl who was killed by an Arab teen, I believe, and now they're collectively punishing his whole village. Yeah,
and it's this friend of mine. Yeah, correct. I am. His friend of mine now lives in Berlin, and he said that he's kind of a right-minded guy, but he's finally said, you know what? I'm going to have to support Netanyahu on this because it's pretty clear. He's made it pretty clear that no matter what he does, you know, the anti-Semites are out in full force, you know. So he does this, he does that. It doesn't make a difference, you know. He might as well just do what he's going to do. And in this instance, Americans need to think, if somebody climbs into the bedroom of a 13-year-old girl and cuts her throat in America, though I'm sure it happens, but if it happens with a political agenda, Americans are losing their minds. The fact that this guy showed any restraint at all vis-a-vis the lives of, and you know, and I'm sure the Palestinians will come back.
So you're for collective punishment?
No, I'm not. No, let me finish. I'm sure the Palestinians will do what happens in these instances. They'll say, I can show you, to borrow from Mitt Romney, I can show you folders of dead 13-year-old Palestinians, you know, so who are you going to cry for? I said, man, the optics on this are fucking bad, and the fact that she was, you know, an American as well, you're poking an increasingly angry bear with a fucking sharp stick, and this is not going to play well for you because, you know, it's not out of the question that he could just say, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice myself for history. I'm going to blow up the entire Palestinian population. I'll go down in history as a bad guy, but you know what? I got the stabbings on the street, the throat cuttings. I think fundamentally, if this happened in any other country, they would understand, and eventually history will redeem me. I'm going for it. And who would stop him? Have you noticed the inroads he's making in Africa? Do you notice how he's cozying up? Netanyahu, he's making big moves in Africa.
And what the power players in Ghana are going to sweep in on his side?
A lot of countries in Africa, man. A lot of natural resources, a lot of money coming through there from other places. Allow deals to be made. He is putting some air between him and the Americans, and I think he's doing that specifically because he's about to make some big moves. You know.
Well, he's got Lieberman there at his side, one of the most charming fascists going today. So. You know, fascism's always worked out for every country that's adopted for Israel.
But you know what's happening. You say that, and it throws up a divide between. I mean, the people who support Netanyahu, which is an increasingly large percentage of the Israeli population.
Because all the reasonable people are fucking leaving.
Not really, not necessarily, you know. I mean, Zippy Livni, people were like, she's a fucking joke. In the American press, it was like, oh, Zippy Livni. The idea of a woman leading Israel was you know, it's great, gold in my ear, yeah. But I mean, the reality of it is, you know, they're quickly getting to the point where they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck what Americans think. They don't care. You know, our 13-year-old girls are getting their throats cut. We don't give a fuck. Somebody's gonna pay for this, you know. They got clothing stores named Hitler.
Oh. Jeez. Now it's time for Eugene's Lost Battalion. Eugene.
You know, I'm gonna have to say a few things, and I said some of them on Knuckle Up that somebody had some sort of complaint about my picking last week of Conor McGregor, but McGregor has gone into the Lost Battalion in a way that nobody has before. In that specifically because of who he is, we could hear him. I mean, you can't really hear Chris Weidman in the Lost Battalion. You know, I mean, maybe every now and then you see him in somebody's corner, so you see him kind of battling against the mist, but never has the audio been quite as good from the Lost Battalion as it's been for Conor McGregor, Mystic Mac, and you know, you guys, Conor Mac nut jumpers, you email me offline. I know you're angry about this, but the dude is saying some kind of stuff that, you know, if the earmark of being in the Lost Battalion is lack of awareness, my God, you know, I mean, every single time he opens his mouth these days, it shows that I mean, maybe it's a dodge, this discombobulated dodge, but he's saying stuff that has no bearing on any reality that any of the rest of us were exposed to vis-a-vis his first fight with Diaz. So, I mean, I don't think he came into the fight game unlike anything we had seen before, really, and he's now in the Lost Battalion in a way that none of us have ever seen before. It is stunning and beautiful to watch, but, you know, I mean,
wait till he knocks out Nate.
That's all he's got. That's all he's got. That's
or
really,
submits him.
I mean, and this is what I love. This is what
I heard BJJ is off the charts.
Yeah, exactly. I read that one too.
Hey, this is what true believers do, man. He's invading Stalingrad in October. Doesn't give a fuck. You know, if he emerges with a win from this, you know, he can counter Hitler's German people have failed me. He could say, Providence favors me. I mean, but does anybody see this happening? Some people do. I mean, I'm watching the odds kind of slide around, but this is, I don't, you know, I mean, you know, like I said, you got guys kind of in the mist, and they're there, you know, my neck feels better now. I think I'm ready. Yeah, okay.
How do you know he's not just talking crazy shit to throw Nate off the trail?
Because, first of all, nobody who knows, I mean, knowing what he knows about Smack, he's got to know it's not fucking working. It's not working. He might as well be farting. You know, it has about as most emotional, intellectual impact.
Just wait until the press conference. They have to be together first.
On Diaz as if he was just farting into the microphone. It doesn't make a difference. So who's he doing it for? I suspect he's doing it for himself. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like this. It overshadows any other entry into the Lost Battalion that I've ever seen. I
can't wait until the press conference just to wait. Oh, my gosh. It's going to be so...
If McGregor shows up.
Yeah, and again, these are things that would discombobulate the normal guy, you know, like Jose Aldo or Rafael dos Anjos. How it could be, you know, Nate doesn't give a fuck, you know. He's like, you know, dude's a pussy, bro. I mean, that was my Nate imitation. Yeah, no,
you've been working on him, right?
Yeah. It's like
still dead.
Yeah. So I mean, it is really. I mean, you guys who are denying that he's in Lost Battalion, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to prove me. You're gonna have to show it to me because I'm not seeing it, man. But it's stunning. It's stunning. It's like you know, in Waco, Texas, where they set up the speakers and they blow heavy metal into the compound. Except it's like the reverse. So he's got these big speakers, and out of the mist, I'm hearing this craziness each and every time. You know, it's great to watch. It's great to watch. And you know what? If he pulls it out, oh my God, that would be so. I mean, I'm tempted to put $10 on him just to, like, you know, just because I want to be down on the team that said I believed, you know. But
come on, man, put those $10 down. You got to do it.
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna have to mug somebody to get it first.
None of that. We could collectively punishment all of East Palo Alto for it.
Yeah, well, I'm not an East Palo Alto native. I'm a Brooklyn boy. I got places to go.
I see. All right.
Well, speaking about having places to go, thanks for joining us. Follow us on Twitter at EUGENE'S Robinson, at Kid Nate, at Alexi Old. Please give us a thumbs up. Eugene. Leave comments on YouTube. Subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube, MMA Nation on iTunes. Visit Bloody Elbow. Read Eugene at Ozzy.com. And be sure to check out all three of us on Amazon.com. I was going to say 3.5, but anything right yet.
Hey, I got a piece up on Ozzy today about this crazy Polish bar in Berlin, where the art gallery down below, which amounts to this Polish woman's 20 years of her vacation photos. She makes you put your phone in a basket before you go down because she doesn't want anybody to get a glimpse of her bikini shots from 20 years ago.
Oh, my goodness.
So.
We'll be back next week with another installment. If I did it, we don't know what we're talking about because the PR mistakes have yet to be made.
All right, thanks, fellas. Eugene, don't leave.